Hey guys, it's Mo from Mo in the Deep End for reals and for cereals and super cereals, all the cereals this time. We are going to go over the press conference that was held several days ago for the Long Island serial killer suspect and kind of the investigation. I do know that it is going to involve the families, I believe. As we were talking about earlier in a video, we went over an article that interviewed an author that was very um, deeply involved in the case as far as coverage wise, not like investigation wise. And he kind of gave his picture of maybe kind of shortfallings that the police had. So he did very much praise the press conference and how they treated the families. So hopefully we will see that love and compassion given to these victims' families. And we will be able to deal with that and, just give them a little bit of humanity and things like that. All right, well, that was a crisis. Let's see. I'm not sure if it was celebrity death match or what was happening, but allegedly, the story that was told, as per all the boys, was that Griffin ran into his brother's fist accidentally. He has an ice cube. He has he's laying down with his pad. Y'all, kids are insane. It's the Mondayest Friday ever. I don't know, maybe this press conference is cursed. I'm just saying for me, maybe this press conference is cursed. Gonna try to give you guys as much of well, not technically not me, but just you guys can see the, press conference as good as you can with also transformation. Yeah. The allegations stand as such. Apparently, what had happened is, what I'm getting from this particular, uh, what has been relayed. I will do so. I, again, have not seen this. I know you are all going to be shocked and amazed, but, helping Baker out yesterday, I did not get any of my previewing done that I was supposed to, but I had a blast. It was hilarious. He's such a fun drunk too. I mean, not he was not drunk. There was no one drinking. It never happened. Alright, let's see if we can finally get alright. And I have this up, so hopefully swear to goodness, you ask them to do just one doggone thing, and you'd think, "Oh, for goodness sake, what." Broken, well, now
All set. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you all for coming. I'm standing here with my law enforcement partners in the Gilgo Task Force to announce the indictment of defendant Rex Andrew Heerman, 59 years of age. He's been arrested by the Suffolk County Police Department's homicide detectives, and he's been indicted in a grand jury presentation by the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office for the murders of Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. The investigation of Maureen Brainerd Barnes is ongoing. These young women went missing between July of 2007 and September of 2010. They were found in December of 2010 by the Suffolk County Police Department, and then there was nothing, absolutely nothing. For the next 13 years, their cases went unsolved.
Now, I do want to remind everyone, and I will dig into this, that's on my weekend to-do list. Y'all, I am nothing without my sticky pad of notes, and you can see my terrible, Ted Kaczynski handwriting, if you will. But I will be digging into what exactly the police chief was charged with, because I know that there was a federal FBI charge, well, not an FBI charge, but a federal charge against the former chief of police, and it was alleged that he soft walked or kind of just did not do anything with this case because it was a fairly, high profile case, and he did not want to attract any more attention to himself because he thought he was under investigation, which he in fact was. So I will be digging into that because I find the presupposition from the author that wrote Lost Girls that these women or the cops just kind of ignored it solely based on the fact that, these were women who, had a high risk lifestyle. I find that to be kind of one dimensional. I think if you don't also have in there that the police chief was convicted and yeah, I truly believe that this man might be one of the more prolific offenders that has been found. I don't believe this is something that, he just started 13 years ago. I think these are just the ones that have been found, and I don't know a lot about Long Island, but I will be learning, and I'm guessing there are still rural places that you can hide people, hide things.
Until today. When I took office in January of 2022, I made Gilgo a priority. I made Gilgo a priority before I took office. I met with the victims' families, some of whom I'm proud to have standing with us today. And I told them that we were going to handle this case differently. We were going to do it differently. And that when I showed up, you weren't going to see me calling the media and being on Gilgo Beach with a giant magnifying lens looking for clues 12 years after the case. What I was going to do was I was going to work with my task force. We were going to form a task force. We were going to work with the Suffolk County Police Department. We were going to work with the Suffolk County Sheriff's Office.
I also, not to keep pausing it, but I also heard that, and if this happened, I mean, my respect for this gentleman has raised tenfold, but I have heard that the victims' families and lawyers representing the victims' families were given somewhat of a heads up before this. So much respect. Oh, sorry. Let me turn me down. I have the core up as high as I can. I don't know if I have the enhancer for YouTube on here, but let me see if I can get it. I have the cord up as high as it will go right now, so I will try to just be quiet and let you guys listen.
We're going to work with the New York State Police. We're going to work with our FBI, and we were going to form this task force, and we were going to work together, and we were going to use the grand jury, the power of the grand jury to reach a determination in this case. Because the grand jury has two things. It has power, it has reach. You could obtain documents, you could interview witnesses. But the other thing that the grand jury has, no one knows what you do when you operate a grand jury proceeding. And we knew that when we were investigating this case and when we dealt with the media or whatever it was we were doing, we were playing before a party of one, because we knew the person responsible for these murders would be looking at us. So we were very careful how we handled the investigation. We maintained the integrity of the investigation. Most importantly of all, we maintained the secrecy of that investigation. And I think that's paid dividends as we've seen today. Now, I think that when we had the task force, the first thing we did, got together with Suffolk County Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison. We formed the task force. Our first meeting was February 1st of 2022. And what we did, what all of the agencies here, we made the commitment. We were going to take our most talented investigators. So in the district attorney's office, we took
Sorry,
ADAs, myself included.
I'm
We
working
took
on it.
analysts, we
Give me
took
2
detective
seconds.
investigators, and they worked
Well,
on a
more.
daily basis with other talented investigators from all of the agencies here. We started that in February 1st, 2022. 6 weeks later, on March 14th, 2022, the name Rex Heuermann was first mentioned as a suspect in the Gilgo case. A New York State investigator was able to identify him in a database. And from that point on, we used the power of the grand jury, over 300 subpoenas and search warrants, looking into this individual's background to bring us to this day. So I'm proud. I know that this case is over, but I'm proud of what we've accomplished up to this point. I know we have more to accomplish, but I'm also thankful for the partnership of the task force, because certainly without the participation of the task force, we wouldn't be standing here. Before I thank some folks and turn it over to our partners, I just want to talk a little bit about the evidence in the case. I know a lot of people know about the case. As I indicated, the victims went missing between July of 2010 and July of 2007 and September of 2010. In December of 2010, their bodies were recovered. They were buried in a similar fashion, in a similar location, in a similar way. All the women were petite. They all did the same thing for a living. They all advertised the same way. And there were similarities with regard to the crime scenes. All the women were bound at the head, at the midsection, or at the chest, and later at the legs. The other thing I think that that's been talked about in the media was they were bound by burlap. That has taken a life of its own in the media, and the burlap has been described or thought to be the burlap that's used at a nursery for. That's not the burlap that was used in this case. The burlap was camouflage burlap used for duck blinds of hunting. Obviously it was used to purposely hide the bodies. One thing that became immediately apparent was at the time of each of the murders, the murderer, the defendant Heuermann, he got a cell phone and a burner phone, which is prepaid and anonymous. And for each of the murders, he got an individual burner phone, and he used that to communicate with the victims. Then shortly after the death of the victims,
Okay, guys, Edge totally freaked out on me, so I am learning all the things in Chrome, and I will see if David can send me a link to the easy boostery thing that I used on Edge, because now I have Chrome. I'm working on it, y'all, but I will try to be quiet. And yeah, the man with the burner phones, good Lord, I didn't even know. I'm learning about all the burner phones between Letitia and, this guy. I'm gonna be set to be a super spy.
he then would get rid of the burner phone. Right away in December of 2012, FBI CAST analysts, special agents with the CAST unit of the FBI, they immediately began looking at that cell site data. They compared the victims' phones with the burner phones, and they immediately honed in on some similarities, specifically in the Massapequa Park area. And they looked at an area of a confluence of 4 cell towers, and they realized that this had significance because the perpetrator of these crimes was probably located within this area at or around the times of the murder. And that was mapped out. That was called the box, and it was an area in Massapequa Park. The FBI also managed to do that for an area in Midtown Manhattan. And so that was an investigative lead. The other investigative lead at the time was, even though there was a significant amount of time that elapsed with regard to before the victims were recovered, there was some significant evidence recovered. Specifically, there was a hair recovered from Maureen Brainerd Barnes from a belt buckle that was around her legs. With regard to Megan Waterman, there were 3 hairs recovered. from her, one from around her head area, one from around her leg area in the burlap, and then there was one caught in between the tape. And that was recovered. Amber Costello also had a significant hair that was recovered during the time the time of the recovery. But again, the crime scene, because it was out there for so long and because it was exposed to the elements, those hairs were degraded, so you couldn't use traditional DNA analysis on it. You would have to wait.
And if you guys want to get into more of this, as far as, what the hairs did, where the labs went, I do have a video that I did, not yesterday, but the day before, that goes through the bail request, or kind of, we're not giving this man bail from the state. And it is, I think, 32 pages long, but it has pictures, which is good for those of us like me who can't spatially visualize anything, and tons of information. It is, I mean, barring some sort of worldwide conspiracy, it looks very much like this man did it. Ah, well, Twisted Bunny is much smarter than the rest of us. Or this guy at least.
Wait and use mitochondrial DNA. And back in 2010, the technology wasn't there for mitochondrial DNA. So the investigation proceeded, but also technology proceeded as well. And then in January and February of 2022, we formed the task force. We began working collectively. And then a mere 6 weeks later, on March 14th, 2022, Rex Heuermann was identified for the first time. And the manner in which that was done was the New York State investigator looked at a database. Amber Costello, the day before her disappearance on September 1st, 2010, she met with an individual for the purposes of having him pay her money for her services. But she involved herself in a ruse where once the individual gave her money, and other individuals came into the house, pretended to be significant others, confronted the individual with the purpose of making that individual uncomfortable, having him leave without retrieving his money. And that's exactly what happened. So that individual was identified as a person who was between 6'4" and 6'6", a large man, thickly built, not necessarily overly muscular, but just a naturally big person with glasses, white, and dark hair. Also of significance was that the fact that he was driving a dark-colored black first generation Chevrolet Avalanche with a very unique feature that was between it was a pickup truck, so it was between the cab and the bed, and that was identified. Again, that was back in 2010, but it wasn't until March of 2022 that database.
She was appraising his antiques. Right before the road show, he wanted to know if he had anything of value. No, she was selling affection by the hour. Again, a profession which should not be a death sentence, but I don't know how you make it safer and or legal or do any. I am just a Mo on the internet. So I don't know all the answers. No, I mean, this might be his very biggest case. Good morning, Carlene. We are just going over the press conference I promised. Sal, in your exclusive interview with this gentleman, maybe, I don't want to be too biased and say post conviction, but yeah, and some lawyers are really good in court because they have all of their questions and everything else, but this is more of a free form uh, kind of talking where if you read from a paper, you're going to look very robotic and mechanical. And when I have to do public speaking, I usually don't have a speech per se. I have, bullet points because y'all, I may or may not tangent out if I don't, but I know what to hit and at what points I want to hit it. So I have it sort of in a chronological or how it makes sense to me kind of order because I don't want to look like I'm reading off a piece of paper. So when I usually have my little rants and stuff, I have little bullet points, but I don't have a script per se.
Was searched by the task force. and this individual was identified. That individual was Rex Heuermann, the defendant. And right away, there were some commonalities that came right to the fore. Rex Heuermann, 6'4", largely a large person, not necessarily muscular, but a very physically large person. He has glasses. He has the dark hair, and also a particular note, he owned at the time that first generation Chevy Avalanche. There was more. He lived at 105 First Avenue, which was located within that box area that the FBI first discovered
well,
in two.
I did want to ask you a question, John Gary, and I know this is going to show my Midwest kind of bubble, but and I don't know how to say this without sounding like a butthole, so I'll just say it and then understand that I don't mean to be a butthole about it. But I guess I assumed that because he had an office in Manhattan and he was fairly well known, that his house would be, I don't know, more McMansiony. Um, I'm I'm guessing that uh, real estate there is way mega expensive. I don't know. I guess I assumed he was going to have a bigger house and it was going to be, I don't know, fixed because there were some deck projects back there, which is apropos of absolutely nothing. So let's get back to the thing.
2012. Uh, but there was more. Also, he worked at the time at an architect and he owned his own architectural firm at an address at 19 West 36th Street in Midtown Manhattan. And that was also the area of interest that was identified by the FBI in 2012. Again, that was March 14th, 2022. And from that point on, our partners and my office, we used the grand jury to continue to investigate. And we executed over 300 subpoenas, search warrants pertaining to this individual to find out more information. One of the things that we did is we followed him because we
Yikes.
wanted to get an abandonment sample of his DNA, which we were able to do. We also got DNA samples, abandonment samples from his family. And then we went back and we got mitochondrial DNA testing. And with regard to, there's an aspect of New York State law that doesn't allow me to talk about DNA testing, specifically at press conferences. So I can't do that. However, at the arraignment and also when we filed our bail letter, we talked about the significance of that evidence. So if anyone needs to see that, but suffice to say, that evidence was significant, especially with regard to the other evidence that we had developed. But there was another interesting aspect. We looked at the Heuermann family travel records, and we learned that during the murders of the last three women, Bartholomew, Waterman, and Costello, that during the commission of those murders, the defendant's wife and children were out of New York State, and he was alone in the tri-state area. We also went back and looked at his cell site records, and we compared his personal cell site records with that of the 4 target phones, and we saw that there was areas of commonality. In other words, that whenever the target phones would bounce off a cell tower, if the Heuermann personal phone bounced off a tower, it was always consistent and in close proximity with the target phones. And at no time was there ever an incident where those target phones were, for instance, in New Jersey while the defendant was.
I really recommend if you don't want to watch it on my channel, but if you're, like me and, this is kind of your first going into the case, if you're on the rewatch crew, I would recommend going and either watching my video on the bail application, which almost reads like a probable cause affidavit. Uh, and it has just 32 pages of a wealth of information, and they had, photos and kind of demonstratives that really help you understand what it is he's trying to say here. Because there is, I mean, they have a mountain of information. This is not a, you know, Zachariah Anderson or Michael Turney to be more, it's more maybe on the level of, it's not a Michael Tierney um, kind of we have these ideas, but we have really no evidence kind of case.
was on Long Island. So that was completely consistent. The other thing that we looked at was we looked at his use of burner phones, and we followed, using the grand jury, using the great investigative help from our partners, we followed his use of burner phones. We were able to identify 7 separate burner phones that he used. We were able to use fictitious or fraudulent email addresses and get Google warrants. And from there, we got his searches. And we learned what the defendant was searching. In a 14-month period,
So I do need to ask a real legally lawyer because it seems like they were using the grand jury, and then as the grand jury would say, okay, well, this seems kind of kosher. They would kept going back to ask for more subpoenas and more documents. And maybe it's a New York thing. Again, I'm going to have help from a lawyer friend because I don't know all the lawyerly things. But I kind of thought you had to have your case kind of all together and then you took it to the grand jury and the grand jury said, "Well, yeah, you have a case." And then you kind of go through and I didn't realize that it could be used as kind of a fact-finding apparatus. At least that's how it kind of sounds, um, here because it sounds like they were a grand jury for almost 14 months?
he had over 200 searches pertaining to the Gilgo investigation. Not only was he looking at investigative insight, he was trying to figure out how is the task force using cell phones to try to figure out what's happening. What are the developments with regard to the task force? And this really supported our decision to keep our investigative focus secret because we knew that this one person would be watching and we didn't want to give him any insight into what we were doing. And we also didn't want him to know just how close we were getting. So we made
I do like that they use strategery. I mean, some of these cases that have been coming up seem like I don't know, like I myself, my first rough drafts, you guys are gonna think, craziness, but okay, well, that's good to know. I did wonder, but it does seem like that's maybe more the function that this grand jury was sort of put on, so that they could, pass the sort of test that I talked about this morning in the Delphi case. There are certain tests to appease the Fourth Amendment, making sure that there's actual probable cause, that you have a reason to search someone's property or, digital evidence. So maybe that's just how they do it. It's a function in New York. But thank you for that information, John Gary, because I was kind of wondering. It seemed a little like I'm only a year and a half into my pre-law.
maintain the grand jury secrecy and we maintain the integrity of our investigation. In addition to those Gilgo searches, he was compulsively searching pictures of the victims, but not only pictures of the victims, pictures of their relatives, their sisters, their children, and he was trying to locate those individuals. In addition to that, there was a lot of torture, porn, and what you would consider, depictions of women being abused, being raped, and being killed. In addition to all of that, we continue to look and
Y'all, again, on my video, there y'all can find out what he was looking up. I mean, you can read it. It was look, have your wood chippers ready. I mean, it is I think that so it had gone to, I'm sure he'll probably say it here in just a second, but he had started looking up in earnest abuse that involves children of a non-consensual nature. And I believe that might have motivated them to start moving because they had him under fairly strict surveillance. I believe that they got his home IP address by finding so I guess they went through layers of finding things. So they would find like his picture or they found like one of the burner phones. They went and, got all the information off of that, which led them to a fictitious Tinder account. And then they could find out how that Tinder account was accessed. And then they found the IP, I think. Y'all know I don't know technology, but it might explain. Look, I read what they did with the technology from that, it they might have subpoenaed it. Again, I would recommend you go to the bail, application because I read it. Now, did I understand all that I read? The answer would be no, but they did some sort of internet magic and sorcery.
we were able to determine that Chevy Avalanche that was used during the commission of the Amber Costello crime, that Chevy Avalanche was in South Carolina. And again, with the help of our partners, we were able to seize that Chevy Avalanche pursuant to a search warrant, and we're certainly going to analyze that. In addition to that, pursuant to the arrest of the defendant last night by the Suffolk County Police Department, we obtained one of his burner phones, his last burner phones. As I said, this case is not over, it's only beginning. We're continuing to execute search warrants, and we anticipate getting more evidence. Before I turn it over to my partners, I want to thank a lot of people in the room. First and foremost, I want to thank the victims in this case. You know, it's always inspiring as a prosecutor when you get to meet the victims. And while sometimes our defendants could embody the very worst of humanity, it seems that invariably our victims embody the very best of what it means to be human. And in this case, it was no different. I've gotten to know the families, and I'm inspired by them, and I'm impressed by their patience and by their I want to thank them all so much, and I want to let them know that we're going to continue to work this case. The next thing I want to do, I just want to thank.
You know, I will have to say that that's probably this man is not an eloquent speaker. I think we can all agree that maybe he's, maybe he's going to be better in trial. Maybe he does a lot better. But that right there, that just calling the victims human, not talking about, whatever they were doing, right there, that man has earned my respect. And usually I'm not a state person, but, just kind of saying that, having them here, tipping them off that there was possibly going to yeah, he is no Bradley Young. I mean, not all of us can be eloquent with the wordsmithing in which this situation pertaining to the case of which we were looking at in the forefront of our minds. Okay, you watched a video that says there are two ladies of payable pleasure currently in jail in Suffolk County that had phone interactions with him a few years back, but never met him. I believe there was I have to search it down, but I believe there was a video interview with one of the women that either met him or never met with him, or maybe met with him but got weird vibes. Uh, so I know that's out there, and I will probably make a video about that. I get a little squeaky when big cases come out and all of a sudden out of the woodwork, people are like, "Oh, I knew him for years and I knew he was weird," or I I just want to do some digging and make sure that she is actually, it's actually proven that she either had interaction with him because what I don't want to do is take away should she be, and I'm not alleging this, but there have in the past been certain people that will use, a big case to maybe self-promote or, get themselves into the media eye. And again, I'm not saying yeah, I'm not saying that that is. Maybe the best of humanity is that the families are still looking. Maybe that's again, he is many things, an eloquent speaker may not be one of them, but maybe the best of humanity is, still searching after years and years, at least to me, for a person who maybe made life choices that you didn't agree with, or maybe was down a path that you really didn't care for, but you still hold in your heart the hope that you're going to find either them or justice for them. Maybe that's what he meant. Again, not the best speaker.
I want to thank our partners. I want to thank Suffolk County Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison. We said it was a change, and when we talked about not going before the media, if you see, Rodney did go before the media, but it was always in a very controlled manner, and it was always with a controlled purpose. Again, we did that because we knew we were playing before an audience of one person, and so I want to thank Rodney for his partnership. Most importantly, I want to thank Rodney for his integrity. I think in the past, what the reason why these various investigations fell short was because there was a lot of outside influence, a lot of people who had nothing to do with the investigation, nothing to do with the
Can we take a moment to say that that is a sharp suit? I mean, the gentleman with the red tie has a sharp suit on, and our current speaker, his tie is crooked.
investigation or any of the agencies that were actually handling the investigation. They still asserted pressure
Okay.
on those investigations.
To be real honest, if I didn't really wanna be on TV, I may hide behind the tall people. I'm just saying.
That did not happen with our task force. Our task force was run by our members, and we did what we thought was in the best investigative steps and what was in the best interest of the investigation. So I want to thank Rodney for that. And his whole team. I know that we have Suffolk County Homicide here, Kevin Byer. We've got Inspector Rowan, and I know that they've been around, and I know that they're here, and I know that they stand in the shoes of their past investigators, and I want to congratulate them, and I want to thank them for their partnership. I also want to thank Sheriff Errol Toulon. Everything I said about Rodney, I could say about Errol. Errol is an unbelievable partner. He was an unbelievable partner in this case. During the pendency of this case, and one of the reasons why we had to take this case down was we learned that the defendant was using these alternate identities and these alternate instruments that continue to patronize sex workers, which of course made us very nervous. But with the help of the sheriff and his database and his analysts, we were able to continually stay one step ahead of the defendant. So thank you, Sheriff Toulon. I want to thank the FBI. I know Assistant Director in Charge Michael Brodak is here. I want to thank his entire team. You know, when you have the FBI, not only do you have tremendous resources and insight, whether it's the Behavioral Sciences Unit, whether it's CAST, whether it's CART, which is their computer unit, but you also have the ability to seize a car in South Carolina. I can't seize a car in South Carolina without the FBI.
Good lord,
thank you
is
for
there
that.
anyone
And
left
thank you
at
for
the
your partnership.
FBI office, y'all? Seriously, for seriousness. 800, well, at least the FBI is doing something. I mean, I'm not gonna besmirch the FBI today, Your Honor. But, this is the kind of police investigation I like to see. There's someone way in the back. Again, I'm not saying I would hide in the back, but I have I have 2 modes which are very dichotomous. It's either I will be at the front on the podium and I will be talking and I know what I'm doing and I will be in charge, or I am hiding in the damn background. There is, like, no middle ground. I'm a weirdo.
Partnership, and thank you for your willingness to work with us. I want to thank the New York State troopers. I know Major Udis is here and his team. This
'Cause I
case
never know what to do
is
with my
emblematic
hands.
of great cooperation, but we always get that same level of cooperation from the state police, no matter what case we're working.
Good.
So I want
Oh,
to thank
never
them. Their
mind.
investigators did great work on this job and in this
Y'all,
case. And
I think we need to address the real elephant in the room. Baldness is catching in New York and Long Island. Um, if you are part of any sort of law enforcement, you may or may not catch the bald. Good morning, Dave Umbarger. So, did he keep seeing ladies of negotiable affection but stop killing them? It would seem I think that's what they're looking for. I think what they were trying to do was really link him because they did have the hair and they were able to do the mitochondrial phenotyping, and narrowing it down. And since I have looked this up, it is actually true in Iceland. I could not believe that Spacey me actually remembered this. But in Iceland, they actually have an app that you can use when you first start dating someone to make sure that you are not too closely related because it's such a kind of insular, country. So, you know, I was gonna say something, but they lost, someone, and look, if I happen to know of a press conference, Mo would try to dress in a way that was maybe I wouldn't have my stupid, "I've never faked a sarcasm in my life" shirt on, but that's just me. Yeah, I think that, they're going to find a lot. I think he's going to be prolific. I think, he is smart enough and blendable enough to have done sort of an Israel Keys type thing, and if you guys want me to look up, Israel Keys and perhaps if I know they have a recording of his interrogation, that is one scary MFer, okay? That man is about as close as I think you could get to the kind of cold mindset of Hannibal Lecter in a real person. So I do believe that this is gonna be a multi-state thing. Baker, make no purchases while slightly tipsy, unless you these cops can make up all sorts of hooey with this DNA mumbo jumbo. You are correct, excited. Just like Australia may or may not be a fig Newton of my imagination, DNA too could be a fake. I Hopefully Baker has all the Tylenol or whatever Danish equivalent is. Oh, good lord.
And we couldn't have done it without him. Lastly, I want to thank Nassau County Police Commissioner Pat Ryder. I don't know if he's here. Did he make it? um, you know, this case, as I said, spans 13 years, and during that time, Pat Ryder has been our neighbor to the west. When it started, I think he was a sergeant, detective sergeant, maybe uniform sergeant, but whatever. Whenever we needed something to be done, or whenever the task force needed something to be done, Pat Ryder would do it, and he would do it quietly, without much fanfare, and we know he would keep the confidentiality of our grand jury and our investigation. So I want to thank him for that. And with that, I will turn it over to Commissioner Rodney Harrison.
I know, Baker, I felt so bad. I kept it like, "Sweetie, you need to go get something to eat. Hun, you need to," like, I talk to you like my kids, and I felt bad. I was like, "He's a grown man. Why are you talking to him like a kid?" And then I remembered you were to use a lovely Southern word that I love, it's called "fixin' to." Like, I have bags that should go to Goodwill that I'm fixin' to put in my van. Now, the fixin' to is an unspecified amount of time that while you're still considering to do it, um, it is not quite done yet, but, it's in that Schrodinger's box part of almost done and fixing to be done. So, you know, there's your Southern lesson for the day. If your wife asks you why you haven't done something or your husband or, whomever, you can be like, "I was fixing to," which means you definitely are intending to, but the time period is nebulous.
Good afternoon. Today is a good day. And before I acknowledge the individuals that had a role in getting to this place, I would first and foremost like to offer my deepest condolences to the family members. To the family members of Amber Costello, Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman. I can only imagine what you had to endure over the last decade regarding knowing that your killer was still loose. God bless you.
Oh, don't make okay. No, no, no. We're not doing this. This guy's like, "Please don't hug me."
So I've had,
Okay.
I've had the
All right.
privilege.
Just to break the tension, y'all, can I tell you the worst part of church for an introvert? The worst part of church for an introvert is walk around and meet your neighbors. I'm like, "No, I am already here in church. I was wanting to lay in bed. I am here for Jesus. Um, don't make me hug people I don't know." Now, the good part of having a big giant breeder family is that usually your people will be you know, the people will be overwhelmed by your children and they never get to you. Now, the greatest fear, and I'm gonna let you in on all of this, a little secret, just to break the tension. The greatest fear of an introvert is when your husband decides, now send flowers, he may be in need of a funeral, okay? Decides that we are going to go to the front of the church when the pastor asks if anyone would like, to join this church. Now, I filled out the paperwork and I felt that that would be sufficient for our membership because I don't go to the front of church unless, moved by the Spirit, and I've only been moved by the Spirit once, and even then, I was asking the Spirit, like, "Can't someone else do this?" I know, like, "Peace be with you from way far away, and also with you, ma'am." Like, just throw paper airplanes. Um, but yeah, having to go up in front of the church, I was not aware that we were going to be doing that, and Mr. Mo is still not forgiven.
Privilege of being the police commissioner is nearly about 2 years now, and I have had that investigative experience in the NYPD as a detective, as the chief of detectives. And when I was going through the process of being the police commissioner, my engagement with the county executive was I was very familiar with this unfortunate homicides. And I wanted to let it be known that this was going to be our number one priority.
I'm just glad it wasn't me this
But I also want to make
time.
this very clear that this arrest was made by the investigators assigned to the task force. I announced during
So, that is one thing that was cleared up earlier in the case. I'm going to have to look into it, but it looks like it's the kind of burlap that was camouflage. So maybe he was a hunter. I know that he does have other properties in South Carolina and I want to say other states, but I cannot remember. Uh, but if he was a duck hunter, it might be just what he had on hand. I don't know. Yeah, yeah. The side hug is my kind of favorite thing. Like, yeah. That's the funny thing, my friends always joke with me because 'cause they're like, "Can I hug you?" And I'm like, "Okay." And then Jamie said she's a hugger, and I was like, I can tolerate with people I know who enjoy being hugged and hugging, but if I don't know you and you come up, it could possibly be that I end up with a felony for punching you." Yeah, that's a no-go. That's when Mo might catch a case, okay?
during a press conference 18 months ago about a new team effort that was going to investigate the homicide, and that was going to consist of people from Ray Tierney's office, from Mike Broddock, FBI. Mike, thank you so much. State Police, Steve, appreciate your support. Dr. Earl Toulon, Jr., thank you, sir. As well as the investigators from the homicide detectives in Suffolk County. Gentlemen, thank you for all you've done working together with us, making sure we are here today. I also want to thank my partner, Pat Ryder. Pat, good seeing you, man. And former NYPD Police Commissioner, Keyshawn Sewell, for providing resources to assist in the investigation that brought us here today. So one of my first acts was to survey the scene. When I first got assigned as a police commissioner, me and Kevin Breyer went over to Gilgo Beach. I want to thank Kevin. You know, when I first met Kevin, he broke the whole case down and where we stood. He knew the case like the back of his hand. He worked tirelessly in this case. Kev was in charge of overseeing the task force since its creation, and you did a phenomenal job, Kev. Thank you. So there's something that I learned from a former NYPD police commissioner, James O'Neill, which is in order to fight crime or to solve investigations, you have to make sure you're working with your law enforcement partners. The blueprint in making this arrest was a whole team effort. Everybody left their egos at the door and made sure that they brought the knowledge and the resources to this investigation. Fresh eyes on this case and the resiliency of our investigators allowed us to identify Rex Heuermann. Ladies and gentlemen, Rex Heuermann is a demon that walks among us, a predator that ruined families. And if not for the members of this
Um, I guess he's allowed to say these kind of things. You know, I guess he's protected by, like, being the police guy and everything and knowing all the evidence, but, allegedly on the end of that, just in case YouTube decides to think his words are mine and give me a naughty tally.
Of this task force, he would still be on the streets today. However, even with this arrest, we're not done. There's more work to do in this investigation regarding the other
I
victims
did it just for you,
of
Sal.
the Gilgo Beach bodies that were discovered. I'm going to encourage anybody that still has information, call our Crime Stoppers hotline, 1-800-220-TIPS. I want to recognize and thank my Chief of Detectives, John. Thank you for your great work. Deputy Police Commissioner Anthony Carter, both of you who provided update information regarding the case. And let
Okay, I'm kind of with Dennis Heaton on this one. Can we just stick to what we found in the case and stop publicly wonderfully loving each other? I mean, listen, y'all, you can thank each other and get your own participation certificates at the end. This is kind of getting annoying. Yeah, I've got to get the extension pack thing. I used to use Edge and then Edge decided it hated everyone and StreamYard. Now I know David's Edge works. I don't know what deal with Satan he made allegedly to get his to work, but I am now using Chrome. So I don't know exactly how to do the extension. But it is were I in charge of optics because I am the every woman that we all need, um, I would have said, "Keep the public up, y'all can have a banquet for yourself, a dinner of, fedness, where you just go in and you eat fried chicken and pat each other on the back and have your own little, like, participation certificates," but I don't like that.
and let it be known if there was any resources that they needed that you brought it to my attention. Since the discovery of the first victim,
Oh. Well, I feel bad because when you are bald and you are sweating your ever-living tits off, I mean, I feel bad for him because I would be sweating my tits off, I'm just saying. He should have a handkerchief.
there's been a lot of scrutiny and criticism regarding how this investigation was handled. I will tell you this, the investigators were never discouraged. They continued and uncovered evidence and followed leads. They never stopped working and will continue to work tirelessly until we bring justice to all the families involved. Last but not least, I want to thank my predecessors that came before me, the work that they did. I want to thank them for really laying.
Sir, one of your predecessors, I believe, and oh, that was a terrible pause. I'm gonna let him. I'm gonna back her that. There you go. Back, so he didn't look kind of like. Because that was kind of mean of me. But your predecessor is in like federal pound me in the tuchus prison because he was kind of corrupt as all hell boss hog level, from what I'm gathering. I haven't done a deep dive on it yet and gotten all of the information, but come on now. It's almost like that's their damn job. Yeah, well, this is the circle. I shouldn't have posted that. I need to read these before I post them. Twisted has taught us all.
Came before me, the work that they did. I want to thank them for really laying the foundation that helped us get to here today. Thank you.
Okay, let's see who the next person thinks for 800 minutes. Let the FBI go first.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Brodak. I'm the FBI Special Agent in charge of the New York office's Criminal Division. The FBI expanded its full set of resources in support of our local and state partners to advance this investigation. The charges show that we can overcome the most difficult challenges when federal, state, and local law enforcement work together under one task force. While nothing can fill the void caused by the loss of a loved one, through today's announcement, we are hopeful that the families of the victims begin to experience a sense of peace, closure, and justice, and that the general public feels safer knowing that an alleged killer is no longer roaming free.
Is he
The actions
crying?
taken today should serve as a reminder that the FBI, along with our law enforcement partners, will continue to be resolute
Okay.
in our
And completely off topic, and I'm going straight to hell, but his head is very oddly shaped. I don't know that the hairdo does anything to help him, but it's definitely a weird head shape. Yeah, that's kind of what I was hoping.
our determination to bring all offenders to justice, no matter how many years has passed. I would like to thank Suffolk County District Attorney Ray Tierney and his prosecution team, Suffolk County Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison and the Suffolk County Police Department, the New York State Police, and the investigators and staff of the FBI New York Field Office, including the Long Island Violent Crime Task Force. Thank you.
Wow, a Fed being shortened to the point.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Errol D. Toulon Jr., and I'm the Sheriff of Suffolk County. I would profoundly like to thank the District Attorney and the Police Commissioner for including me not only here today, but for including the Suffolk County Sheriff's Office and recognizing the importance of jail intelligence. It is extremely important when you realize that we created our human trafficking unit in 2018, that there are victims in our community, and that intelligence is being shared by many of the men and women who are incarcerated today. And we have seen many disjointed investigations occur, and leading up to the leadership of these two men have really brought everything together. I am proud that today we stand here a little bit closer to bringing closure to the families and extend my deepest condolences to all of you. Because of the nature of this case and recognizing that human trafficking and corrections intelligence is so important, we realize that there are many other cases that are going on that we will help to solve going forward. So I thank my intelligence staff and team that are here today for their diligence and their work. While we did our part in this investigation, we continue because we have to house this individual. We have already designated or talked about certain locations where we will house him. And in addition, this
I have a couple ideas, but they mostly end with a wood chipper. So don't contact me as a consultant, but do contact me as an expert because I will get $300 an hour to make something up. If Beverly Lewis can do it, I'm sure I can do it too. Yeah, I'm getting a little peeved off. The amount of yeah, in their defense, the officials in charge of these killings have been brutally, albeit correctly, attacked, so this must be their redemption time. I mean, there was a confluence of things. Again, I have it on my handy dandy notepad, but I believe the chief of police or the top sheriff, either way, the person in charge of leading the detectives and doing the administrative work was dirty as boss hog and got federal charges. And he slow walked this investigation for many years. In addition to there may have been certain attitudes, uh, there is talk in a term less than dead or the less dead um, that seems to be have been a really prevalent sort of attitude in policing and culture. You know, late 80s, 90s. But I have seen a shift with some people and people like me. I'm a small channel, but I hope that I can get out there that regardless of whatever occupation or high risk lifestyle that a victim might have engaged in, they didn't deserve to die brutally. And they're always someone's family. So yeah, it really seems like it was a confluence. Now, I'm gonna look into, how much maybe the corruption was, what the corruption was about. So, I definitely wanna look into that, and hopefully attitudes are changing that, these women, regardless, or men involved in the same sort of occupation. It's not a choice I would make, I would want my daughters to make, but they are someone's daughters or sons or mothers or children, so I'm glad that they are treating the victims with respect now for the most part.
the security measures we will implement in our facility to make sure that this individual is brought to justice the way he should be. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Good afternoon. I'm Colonel Richard Allen, the field commander with the state police, and I want to start by expressing my sincere condolences to the family members that are here today. Although losing a loved one, you can never completely get rid of that pain, but hopefully these steps they're taking here today are a step in the right direction for you to start in the healing process or work through the healing process. I want to thank the members of the task force, all the agencies you see behind me. When we were approached in 2022 to be part of this task force, we were fully engaged. Glad to be part of this. We assigned investigators on a full-time basis. You know, what you see being done here today is the end game of agencies working together, as it was said before, with no egos, all egos put aside, with the sole mission to find justice for these victims. You know, here in Troop L, Major Stephen Udis oversees the operations down here. He has been intricately involved in this task force since we became partners with it. And I'm going to ask him to come up and say a few words or expand upon this a little bit of our role in the task force.
Okay, so from John Gary, the old SCPD chief James Burke was convicted for attacking a thief who broke into his car and stole a duffel bag full of prawn and adult toys. That is a case we're going to have to look into because that is cringe-hilarious. Could he potentially use this in court as a demonstrative that he was convicted before he could ever get into court? That is a good idea. And Griffin Wayne, if you are trying to steal a pop, you better get the heck out of here now. Shut the door. Sorry, y'all. We have one very small feral that thinks that, oh, mom can't see me, so she can't hear me either. Yeah, I think my guess, and this is only my guess. This is only my guess. But if this is done in conjunction with the DA and all of that, they know all the legally things. If I were a good DA, I would probably, go over everyone's statements. And I'm guessing these people know these things. Now, like I said, I could be wrong. They could be setting up all sorts of appealable stuff, but it seems fairly standard that they all have their little clap and congratulate me time.
Thank you, Colonel. Good afternoon. I'm Major Steve Udis, New York State Police, Troop L, Long Island Troop Commander. I'd like to take this opportunity to start off by acknowledging the DA, Ray Tierney, and Commissioner Rodney Harrison for having the vision to see that forming a task force might breathe new light into this investigation. The state police were asked in early 2022 to join this task force, and once requested, we were more than willing to do so. We were also very pleased that we were able to make some very meaningful contributions in this case to help propel it forward. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of the task force members from the different agencies and congratulate them on a job well done. I think this case represents an example of what we as law enforcement can do when we pool our resources together and we work together. I would also like to mention the state police member assigned to this task force. You were provided with a mission, and that mission was to participate in this task force, put everything else that you were doing aside, place 100%.
I would like to ask you guys, I would like to, I would like to proclaim my awesomeness amongst all of you. I have done, nothing but read stuff off the internet this morning, but so the people behind them, the people that, should be front and center in this case, but are in fact behind all the people congratulating themselves, are the victims' families. And while they acknowledged them and gave them uncomfortable hugs, and they did, okay, I will say they did give Granny, who's in a boot, and those things are effing uncomfortable. I know from experience, I got put in a boot twice this year, even though it's a terrible idea for someone with CRPS. In their defense, they didn't know I had it. But they did give Granny, a chair to sit down on. Yeah, so those are in fact the victims of all of this. You know, their family members. I'd love for someone to explain why no more bodies have been found. If yes, the guy, why did he? Yeah, I definitely think that we are going to find more bodies. I think that they are going to be able to probably link him to the other bodies that were found along the beach. But I want them to do that very carefully because there were other serial killers that have been active or people that have been active. So I don't want them to just kind of do kind of a roundup. If you remember the case of, oh gosh, he was the man that was eventually, I think Henry Lee were eventually convicted of killing Adam Walsh, you know, oh gosh, not Unsolved Mysteries, for flip's sake, America's Most Wanted, that guy. Yes, so those bodies are older, so I'm hoping that they'll be able to, you know, do that, but in the Henry Lee Lucas case, I just remembered, they kind of he was just confessing to everything just to be just to have notoriety, just to have fun stuff, all of that thing. So, I'm hoping we don't have another Henry Lee Lucas, sort of thing on our hands, that they just try to get up all if you ever get a boot, make sure to lift for the other foot. Yes, I wore platform Crocs because I have a bunch of them because I used to be a Crocs addict. I really was. I loved Crocs. And my right leg still likes them. My left leg not so much. I'm super interested to see if more proper evidence comes out in the next few months. With Koberger, it just dried up. Yeah, this one is definitely looking stronger. I will be very honest that I haven't even gotten into the Koberger kind of case just because I've got the Delphi, I've got, you know, small little trials, I've got helping a broken baker who's drunkish, but apparently just a Viking, and drunk is just like not a thing that they achieve, I guess. So I have not looked into that one, and it seems to have a whole lot of coverage by everyone else. We are in the end times, people. I have not seen that trend, but you know, it's better than eating Tide Pods, children. So yeah, yeah, those things are just I meant to say broken, and then I meant to say baker, and then I meant to say boozed up, and so it just kind of came out like that. Yes.
Of your attention on this case and help push this case forward. You more than accomplished that mission. I congratulate you on a job well done, and I commend you for your outstanding work. To the families, I'd like to say that on behalf of myself and the New York State Police, we offer you our deepest condolences. We recognize that these crimes may have happened years ago, but that pain continues. Our hope is that this development today provides you with some relief and some comfort, knowing that the person responsible for your loved one's death is now being held accountable, and he's no longer a threat to anyone else in society. I want you to know, additionally, that the state police is not done here. We are remaining committed and will continue to support the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office, the Suffolk County Police Department, and this task force as we move into the next phase of this process. That's the prosecution. I would also like to say something to everyone watching this with us today. There's been a lot
Facts
of
somewhat
discussion
in
here today
evidence.
about charges,
I'll
about the
allow it
suspect,
with
about what happened.
stipulations.
But I would also like everybody to take the time to join with me and keep the families of the victims and the victims themselves in your thoughts and in your prayers. Each one of these victims was a family member and a loved one, and their void and their loss caused great pain, and they did not deserve this. Nobody is deserving of this. We hope this development today will bring some comfort to them as they move forward. Thank you.
Like, how many people left do we have to
Does anybody have any
hear
questions?
say?
The important thing said that the investigation had to be cut short at one point because of, I think, your A.
Do we have no mics?
The safety of people in the community. Can you just explain that more here?
You know, sure. Before I do that, just, you know, I'm standing back there, I realize I didn't thank my own team. So I want to thank my chief investigator, Rick Zacharies. who is without, I'm so lucky to have. I want to thank Nick Santamartino, ADA Nick Santamartino, ADA Michelle Haddad, ADA Andrew Lee. I also want to thank my chief assistant, Alan Bodie, and I want to thank all of the incredible analysts that we have working for us at the Suffolk County DA's office. So, having said that, I'll now answer your question. I think that there was a tension in the task force, and it was a good tension because there's a tension between getting the evidence necessary to charge somebody, but also keeping the public safe, and that's the tension that we always deal with. So as we were working forward, we had Suffolk County PD, we had the FBI surveilling the defendant. Obviously, that can't be all the time, but we were reasonably assured with that. But this individual was.
I was about to say,
was a
you're with
person
this
that
crowd
continued
at this
to
point.
patronize sex workers at all hours of the night. He continued to use fictitious email addresses, fictitious identities, burner phones. And so as we worked through the case and we got closer and closer, all of a sudden, and we built the evidence, suddenly the balance tips in favor of public safety. So, I think we all wanted as a task force to continue it, but I think collectively we felt that it was time to strike that balance and to take him off the street. So that's
I support your supposition, but if I could get federal grant money to study it, I wouldn't come up with a thesis statement for a long while. Yeah, I was about to say. Um, so I think I can understand most of it. The things, so John Gary was helping me with like Massapequa and oh gosh, Gilgo. And then there are some that I'm like, oh gosh, what was it? It was something, oh, is land something. It's just like, was it Wisconsin? There, it's like take something possibly Native American or probably Native American and add 5 more syllables to it, and then make everyone confused. Sean, that wasn't terrible. I mean, it's dark, but
so that's what we did.
Yeah, I see that you have some of the family members gathered here today. Could you introduce some of them and if they wanted to say anything about the news?
I don't believe they, does anybody want to say? No, they're here, I can tell you they're the Waterman, Bartholomew and Brainerd Barnes family members, but they're here first and foremost to support their loved ones, and we're happy and grateful to have them here.
Are you looking at any other people? Do you believe that there are multiple people responsible for the remains, for the murders?
This portion had to deal with the deaths of these 4 young women. And that's what we focused on. That was what the grand jury investigation was focused on. I talked about the commonalities, and the commonalities, all those commonalities that we talked to were unique to these 4 separate cases. So that's what we're working on. I think the other members of the task force said, we're going to continue, and continue to work, investigate, and try to get a small measure of closure for all the victims' families. But for right now, this defendant, it's this defendant with these 4 victims.
So the other remains, is there any relationship between the informant and the other remains other than the 4?
I'm here to talk about what we did with regard to these 4 victims, and as I opened my address by talking about the need to maintain investigative secrecy. So we are going to maintain that investigative secrecy, and when I talk about other individuals and other cases, it will be after they have handcuffs on.
You mentioned that there was a New York State officer who made the link with Herman. He looked at data, and that's what Herman came up shortly after the task force. Can you explain that? Can you talk a little more about that?
So, I mean, we talked about some of the evidence that was there. Obviously the cast, that phone evidence was great evidence. And then there were other commonalities, there were other investigations. But I think one of the good things about having a task force is basically you strip it all down and you start from scratch, and then you use the DA's office, because the DA's office has to get you the lifeblood of an investigation is information. And the way you get information on a cold case is the district attorney's office issues subpoenas in conjunction with the investigators and execute search warrants, again, in conjunction with the the investigators, and then you mine all that data, and then you let that data take you where you need to go. So that's what we did in this case. And 6 weeks in, the break in the case, a significant break in the case, was the avalanche and the fact that this guy, he was described by witnesses as an ogre. He matched the description of the ogre and where he lived.
Was the avalanche the link there? Was that what jumped out?
Well, I mean, it was a lot of things, right? It was his physical size. It was his where he lived, where he worked. The fact that his family members were out of the country at the time of the commission of the 3 murders. The fact that he now then you start looking into him, and then you start getting burner phones. Well, we had up to 7 burner phones. He's using these fictitious email addresses. So then you follow him and you get an abandonment sample. Then you go back to some of the old evidence. So it's there are I mean, March 14th, 2022 was a huge day for the task force, but it's never one piece of evidence. Well, there's like what they'll call lawman searches, and basically what it is you run a certain make and model of a car and certain other, where you live or what you do for a living, and then you get data, and then you mine that data for something that would match with your case. And you don't do that just, you do that 100 times, until it hits, until you get the right data points.
Did the suspect say anything when he was arrested? Was he surprised? Did he admit to the murders?
So we can't talk about ethically in New York. We can't talk about any statements the defendant made, but he made. We're not turning over any statements.
Was he surprised?
I would say he was. Yeah.
You mentioned a unique feature that helped you track down the
Yeah. So in between the bed and the cab,
Okay.
there's like a little triangular.
Here's a question, and I may be being a smartass. They were able to get, I don't know, 873 people on this stage to thank each other gregariously and verbosely, but they couldn't get a mic for the daggone media. I hate this. I mean, he does look kind of ogre-like. Oh, that's so, yeah. I always love the New York accent. I can't. Yeah. I mean, this man definitely had more victims. Let's be very honest. And then it says the 50-year-old suspect has only been murdering since 2007. Yeah, no. Yeah, I really hope they've got the right one. But I mean, from all that they have, I don't know what a defense attorney is going to say to this. I mean, what they have is quite damning. But maybe some other guy has hair of his phenotype and has an Icelandic wife. I mean, it could be
Or-
possible.
Ornament almost, and it's unique in the way it's configured. It's unique to the avalanche. It was unique to the avalanche.
He had an Illuminati like head, um, rear view mirror attachment thing, ornament. Oh my gosh, he's part of the Illuminati. No wonder.
At that time, and that was something that was pointed out by witnesses. What? Well, the investigation is continuing, and I would never say never. And we're going to continue to look at, again, now this is a watershed event in this case. And so we've now are going out and we're executing more search warrants. We'll get more information, more data, and together we'll look at that and see where it leads.
Can you share what the other victims' families are feeling today?
I'm sorry.
Did you speak to the other victims' families? Did they tell you how they're feeling today?
Which so this
Okay, so this is a good one. Suffolk County Government Office has largest media outlets in the country fighting for space and bandwidth. Local microphone is not the. Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Again, I am not technically smart. Anyone who can work the magic wizardry of computing is a hero in my book. But that is the one thing that does kind of bother me with these press conferences. You really can't clearly hear the questions that the media asks, but that makes perfect sense.
This investigation had to do with these 4 victims. So we've been in touch with the 4 victims through the grand jury process. With regard to victims in general and other victims, who lost people in the vicinity of that area, we speak to our victims all the time, but those are conversations that we keep between ourselves.
Can you explain why one victim that has not been linked to the charges to the suspect at this point?
So it's So first off, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, the other three, one went missing in 2009. I believe the others in 2010. She was in 2007, so it was a little bit more remote in time. We are working through evidence. A lot of that evidence has to do with forensic evidence and analyses that are not completed. But once those analyses are completed, we feel good about the case, and we're going to just continue to let that process go. And again, I think the initial plan was to allow the grand jury investigation to go a little further, but at a certain time, again, the task force felt, we need to, for reasons having nothing to do with the evidence in the case, we need to take it down.
And Jay, can you just sum up this defendant? You've seen a lot. Can you just sum up this defendant and what he is?
He's, it's as a prosecutor and as investigators, he is charged with a crime. There are certain elements in which we need to prove that crime. We are going to prove those elements. We're going to work hard. We're going to convict him, and we're going to hold him responsible for what he did. And whether, what I think of him personally, whether I like him, whether I don't like him, doesn't matter. We are going to hold him responsible for what he did in this case.
Oh, yes. Well, see,
The grand
no, because I have to pay plumbers and such, and that sucks. And with little boys, so here's a tangential story time. Imagine this. You are home alone with 6 children, one of whom is a 3-month-old because your husband has to go to a, 3-month-long class for a new MOS uh, in another state. So you have all of this, you have this going on, and one of the sons decides to put a Matchbox car down a toilet. So I got to learn how to do a snaking. I had to buy a snake thing and learn how to use it. We figured it out, but no, I did not have. I bought a bunch of cold shoulder shirts. I will say, and this is, if you would like to sponsor me, Bloom Chick, or Chic, I would be a just I'd be so grateful because I love. So they're nice quality and they're for us bustier gals. So they have things that give you a little waist area, but you can hide your bra straps and still look, you know, it's busty girl problems or slightly fluffy girl problems. Look, I don't know what devilry those boys got into, but there was all the things stuffed down that toilet. So I do not flush uh, after having used a snake, I am done. No, I don't flush cloth or anything down toilets. And yeah, just no. Well, I have no idea how small. Look, I am not a plumberologist. I was just a desperate woman who did not want to have to call a plumber. And I figured I could watch, a couple YouTube videos and figure this the hell out myself, like most military spouses do. Well, for all of us.
grand jury is it's secret, and we're going to keep it secret. But we have an investigation, and it is continuing.
There was a belt that was presented publicly by the Suffolk County Police Department a few years ago with initials on it. I think one of the initials appeared to be MW, MH, or WH, or something along those lines. Obviously, this guy's got an H in his name.
Sure does.
Can you talk about that?
I mean, he has an H in his name. He has, so it's, what was it, HM or WH? Yeah, so he's got an H in his name, and other relatives in his family have a W in their name. What that means, I don't know.
Can you talk about alleged motive? Why? Alleged motive? Why?
I think that when you look at his internet searches, I think that provides a little insight into his state of mind. And again, we don't have to prove motive. We have to prove the elements, and that's what we're going to do. Well, you said woman. with regard to the sex workers, what we did was we had them under surveillance.
Sir, you were doing so well. Again, okay, guys, maybe it's just me, and y'all can have different opinions because we all have opinions, but to me, between how we say things like women of negotiable favors or, payable pleasure, sex worker just sounds demeaning to me. I mean, it's better than prostitute, what we usually use, but I don't know. I don't know. It's my personal opinion. I don't think it sounds much better than prostitute if you ask me, but no one asked me and they keep making up words and they won't accept cringe-larious in the dictionary, which I think should really be included. Did the reporter really ask what were the killer's motive was? I know it's the politically correct term. I just don't think it's any less tawdry sounding. I mean, it doesn't politically correct is supposed to be a very softening of the language. I mean, George Carlin has a great bit where he talks about how shell shock went to PTSD and, how it softened the language. It went from shell shock to battle fatigue to, burnout and things like that. And shell shock really does have that sort of stopping kind of language. It's a very powerful kind of, it gives you a mental image. MLS Law Show is here. Are you still sweating moonshine or are you good? Yeah, I know. I I know. I guess look, this is just a Mo thing. I just think it sounds worse, but again, women of payable pleasure is probably just a lot of writing to do if you have to do reports and such.
We had other means of monitoring him, and again, it's a process, and that process is you have to balance the ability to find enough evidence to charge him and hold him responsible with the balance of keeping the public safe. And it's not easy, and we decided at a certain point in time that that we needed to take him down because we didn't feel comfortable with it. So that's what we did.
Did the frequency of his searches or the type of his searches increase to cause you alarm?
And I really do believe that when his searches started going from gross, disgusting adult women, fetish sites where women would be treated very badly, in a naked sort of way, and none of the prawn that anyone should ever look at. But when it started going into children's stuff, I think that's when they really were like, okay, no, no more leash, nothing else. We're taking him down. And what do we have enough of to get him in right now?
I don't think it was so much. I don't think it was so much the searches. I think that the conduct of the defendant was very consistent. I think, but the quality of our evidence was increasing by the day, by the moment, due to the great work of our task force partners. So at a certain point in time, we're like, okay, we can do this.
Is there a murder weapon or was this all by physical?
I believe the cause of death is homicidal violence. Obviously, given the length of time and the exposure to a very harsh environment, forensically, there was not not a lot that could be done with the remains, other than come to that conclusion.
He owned 92 guns. It was said at the arraignment that he had.
He has permits for 92 guns. He has a very large safe in which guns are kept. We are continuing to execute search warrants, so I'm sure we'll have that answer shortly.
There's quite a large gap between when he last went down to his arrest. Is there any concern that he's made any other crimes in that time period before the task force was set up?
I'm sorry?
Is there any concern that obviously he last was known to commit a crime in 2010 and it's now 2013? The task force was set up in 2022. That's quite a large gap. Is there any concern?
I think there's always concerns. I think I got into office in January 22. We worked with our partners. We had our first meeting February 1st. And we worked, and March 14th was really that watershed day. And when I tell you, I'd like to brag and say that my office was really working hard, which we were, but no other agency was working any less hard than we were. Once we realized what we had and we realized the stakes, all of our partners really worked I mean, I think if you look at the folks standing here, I don't think that, you know, in the last 48 hours, any of us have gotten more than 3 hours sleep.
Yeah, the eye roll of the dude in the Kawasaki shirt is about how I feel with this self-congratulatory circle jerk that these suited men are engaged in. I think their hair might have been so embarrassed that they were taking all the credit that it just fled on many of these men.
Maureen Vernon Barnes, how much more do you need to actually climb into that?
We are going to continue our investigation, and when we are prepared, when we have concluded that investigation,
I need one of them boxes right about yeah to plug in all of my stuff from my office. Because right now it's somewhat piecemeal, and Mr. Mo does a great job of keeping all the cords like all tidy. I am a chaos. I am chaotic neutral when it comes to cords and bordering on chaotic unlawful, if you will. So right about meow.
we will, you know, we'll bring that to a conclusion, but we will not do it before.
Between all the search- Yeah, between all the search warrants and the subpoenas, will you ever, like, do you ever think that you're gonna lose them? Like, you know, being between all the searching around and stuff? Like,
You know, and I don't want to tell you, you know, exact investigative techniques because they're, you know, again, part of the reasons why they're effective is because people don't necessarily know what that, what.
Well, Sean, I expect nothing less from you. I don't see an issue with them congratulating themselves. Generally, when I start out a press conference, I always begin with, I am awesomest awesomer in the universe of awesomeness. See, and when I start videos, I simply say, I am the empress of the pettyverse. I have my petty badge somewhere, and I'm here. Good afternoon, greedy bloke. I, no, I'm terrible with wires. I give no thought as to where things are going, you know, being plugged in and all this stuff. And Mr. Mo takes care of that. So yeah, I have been told that if I want to attach new things to the computer, if I could just wait, which is why the new camera with all the zoomy things has not been put in because Mr. Mo is building a doodad for it to sit on and um because he was thinking that if anyone came by and we had it attached to the ceiling, they were gonna wonder if we had an OnlyFans account. Since my office is in my giant bedroom, which will be walled in and I'll actually have an office. Now, Mr. Mo says that we cannot get reinforced steel, asbestos, and a biometric lock, but I believe we can.
What it is exactly we do. But always a concern, but given the professionalism of our partners, their diligence and their commitment, we felt good about the case or keeping the case going until we didn't, and then we took it down. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
And that was the press conference. I'm glad that they let Granny sit down because that was sweet of them. And this will be a relatively short, so I'm probably going to end here. I am going to try to figure out between the expert and everything else what exactly we are doing today. I do have a video that will be coming out about the Barbie movie. And if you would like to torture me, to punish me for some unknown wrong, if the chat wants it, if the community wants it, I will go see this godforsaken movie and give you my own review of this Barbie movie. But it will be under duress and I may have a flask. That's all I'm telling you. And the notes might be just like Sal's, like woman has big boobs. Woman is vacant and Barbie like. I don't know. I think they wanted to have the big giant picture of, you know, everyone who's worked on this case because they have received a good bit of criticism, rightly so, for kind of having cocked up this investigation from the beginning with corruption and perhaps less attention to detail. Hey, it's a good song. It's a good song. It's funny, it's catchy, and when you're working out, you can kinda You know, it keeps you on the treadmill or doing whatever you're supposed to be doing, running those invisible and imaginary hills. Ah, well, I mean, that makes sense. You know, so that is where I will leave you guys. I know that Sal covered the interview. If you would like me to cover the interview as well, or the previous press release where they talked about, I believe he was right in front of the house. Um, the police commissioner, I believe, was right in front of the house, kind of breaking everything down. Oh, was there a big issue today? I saw stuff. Yeah, I'm kind of hoping no one wishes that on me, but I am willing to take one for chat and stream my sadness. Yeah, they could have definitely uh, again, I understand sort of, but I just feel like you could have a separate like banquet dinner. I mean, to do that rather than on public time kind of do this with, Granny sitting there. Okay. Oh, so the Boone thing is still on? Or did it get delayed again? I I was doing this. I know there's been press conferences galore about everything, but as you said, as they say, I was up early this morning. I did drop a new video this morning about the Delphi case. I have finally gotten through, and you can see here, I've got every single thing in the 283 page document dump itemized, and then I have it put into a timeline. So we will be getting more into that. There's a lot of shenanigans going on. There were attempts by the jail that is holding them, Richard Allen. Oh, I'm sorry. I am not quite sure. I do know that the latest one, I believe, was when the one that she said we were all involved in a racket and we should be getting epic Sarah Boone money. I hope I do soon. I don't know if my check hasn't been cut yet, but whoever holds the escrow account for the Sarah Boone racket for dramatically reading her letters, I have yet to be paid. So I would really like that to happen at some point, if possible. But yes, back to the original thing. I did drop a Delphi video. It's kind of longer, but we do go through the search warrant and then all the things that were collected in the house and in the car, and the defense's motion to squash all evidence found in this particular thing or particular search, and the state's rebuttal to that. Now, the document dump did not include the May 13th, or May 15th, hearing, so I am trying to get information on that because there were a flurry of other motions that were released right after that. So hopefully they will do another document release here soon, and I can give you guys all the updates on that, or I can maybe get in touch with my contact and see how that is. Now, that is all, and Reindeer has given me a kind of what in the Walmart thing, so we might do a short stream, this weekend. I am not quite sure, but I will be putting a poll up on my community screen. If you guys want me to go see this godforsaken Barbie movie and give you a review, I can do that, or I can stay in the safety of my home and make streaming videos for you guys. I am going to try to get Furry Friday up around 6 tonight, but I will be very honest with you and give you guys a warning that I am not sure what I did to my leg, but it is not very happy with me. So, Furry Friday, maybe Furry Saturday this week, just for giggles, because depending on how I feel, I may finish a couple more videos today, put them up for delayed time, and then take the rest of the day off. So that is just a fair warning. If you don't see anything set up by around 4 o'clock, go ahead and assume that we will just be doing Furry Saturday just for this week. Um, And thank you guys so much for being kind of flexible. I know that you would not think that sitting at a chair is work, but it can be work. And so thank you guys for being flexible and understanding that things happen. Uh, so Furry Friday, what had happened? On Monday, on my birthday, I found this. I am a connoisseur of cringe. I love cringe. It's if anything is cringe hilarious, I am there. I have the People of Walmart coloring book. I think you know me. Well, so I found this compilation of cringy weddings, but um I may or may not have stepped in, and since I'm probably going to be delaying it to Saturday, I will let you in on a little thing that I found. Apparently, at furry conventions, now this are I've kind of gone through a little bit. They are all clothed, thank Jesus. I mean, in the fursuit. I don't know if you can do it. We're not going to get wholly into that. But at furry conventions, there are dance offs. And can we just say 4 words? Furry convention dance off. The cringe hilariousness writes itself. And I'm here for it. So that would be what Furry Friday is. We're not getting into it. We're technically not making fun of any individuals who I'm not going to kink shame. I'm just going to, okay, just a little bit. Like, do you Febreze the whole outfit? Do you dip it in hand sanitizer? I have questions I don't want to ask, but I really will because I'm me. Um, let's just say 1 year, me and Sal are gonna go not to a furry convention, but to the Ancient Aliens convention, and we're gonna meet the guy with the hair, and we're just gonna ask him a couple questions. It's on my bucket list. Mr. Mo has kindly said that he will not be going to the Ancient Alien Man's conventions, which seems like, a break of contract and, being here for better or for worse. I am not kink shaming. I can neither sew a furry suit and or dance. So we are just celebrating them. And if we happen to giggle just a little bit, that's an unintended side effect. I would never be brave enough to have a furry suit and dance in front of people because I dance like Elaine. It's sad. And, it's not everyone's cup of tea, so if you don't wanna be a part of the cringe hilariousness, that is totally okay. You can just be here for the crime and the court and the chaos, and I will see you with that next time. Have a wonderful day. I hope you all have a great weekend. That's mean. But I will see you guys later, and I am just learning garment sewing, and let me tell you that, um you cannot wing garment sewing. You will end up with one boob seam like here and one boob seam here, and it's not the most attractive look. You have to actually pay attention and be precise to things that maybe a semi-lawful chaos demon like me cannot do that. So, I'm sure there will be posts fairly soon. Y'all are mean. I see you now. I see you now. I will see y'all later. Have a great weekend.